Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host for the afternoon, Nehal Shukla. And on behalf of AdGally, I would like to welcome each one of you to the fourth edition of AdGally's ABP Presents Powerful Influencers 2021, featuring the captains of the industry who have been leading the revival story in a challenging year. The year 2021 has seen encouraging recovery, buoyed by the government's mega vaccination drive, as well as the resilience shown by Indians once unlock was announced. While there is still some uncertainty around a complete economic recovery, there are enough green shoots to give positive indications about a return to pre-COVID-19 levels, and in some cases, even those levels. Today at this event, we will see some leading names of the industry sharing their remarkable stories of resilience, rebuilding, and resurgence during these challenging times. Before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsors, ABP News, for partnering us for this event, Powerful Influencers 2021. May I have the sponsor, AB, please?
न पाबंदी हो न कोई हद हो तो बस खुद बनाई सरहद हो। ये मुहिम है परतों में छिपे हर सच की तलाश की, सियासत पर रखी पैनी नजर और आंख की, खबरों की दुनिया में एक जिम्मेदार आवाज की, जुर्म और जुल्म के खिलाफ हर बेबस के लिए इंसाफ की। जब कोई हद नहीं इंसानियत के लिए जज्बात की, जब कोई हद नहीं खुशियों और ख्वाब की, तब कोई हद क्यों हो नए नजरिए और बदलाव की। तोड़ के हदों के ताले नए सपनों को पाले, बांधे सबको एक धागे, आपको रखे आगे। एबीपी न्यूज।
Thank you. I would now like to call upon the virtual stage Bijoya Ghosh, founder and CEO at AdGally. Welcome, ma'am, and please address the speakers as well as our audience.
Thank you, Nehal. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the virtual stage. A very warm welcome again for the launch of fourth edition of Powerful Influencers 2021. 4 years ago, when we started out with this compilation of power list of India's top leaders, we had identified several parameters on which they excelled, but never had we imagined market conditions to change so drastically as they did in 2020. No one could have predicted the severe disruptions that the businesses across the world faced due to COVID-19. 2021 has been a year of coming out of multiple crises brought about by the pandemic. Industries and people alike have shown remarkable resilience, taking multiple challenges in their stride, being confined to one's homes, supply chain disruption, manpower migrating to their native places, businesses and manufacturing operations coming to a standstill. But once the unlock process started, it didn't take very long for the new normal to be embraced by all. The rebuilding process has been going on in all earnest as businesses fight back to reclaim lost ground. The toughest leadership test has been to keep the teams motivated while learning to navigate their course through uncharted waters. The rapid transition to digital, as well as an aggressive vaccination drive, has been an added boost. Now, as we stand, optimism is palpable, and we all are looking at a glorious resurgence. Having passed the toughest of challenges that circumstances could have thrown at us, we have all been through this Agni Pariksha, and even though we are staring at an ominous Omicron surge across the world, we are on this new challenge. Resilience, rebuilding, resurgence is the overarching theme of Powerful Influencers 2021, and every leader featured in this theme who have been at the forefront of this fight back. Friends, before we unveil this powerful influencers of 2021, we have some industry leaders who have been crafting their own growth stories in these crises. Introduce our keynote speakers for today. Avinash Pandey, CEO, ABP Network; Rana Barua, Group CEO, Havas Group; Nitin Mantri, Group CEO, Avian V and President ICCO; Priya Patankar, Head of Communications PhonePe; Ramya Parashar, Chief Operating Officer MIQ; Shalini Rao, Chief Marketing Officer Bangalore Airport; and Kunal Jaswani, CEO Ogilvy India. Before I leave the virtual stage, I must thank my whole team who has stood by me in this crisis and helped us in reaching the stage that we are today. Thank you, team. Thank you so much. Over to you, Nehal.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to call upon our first keynote speaker, Avinash Pandey, CEO, ABP Network. Avinash has been with ABP for over a decade now. He steered the transformation of the channel from Star News to ABP News in 2012, along with the rebranding and repositioning in 2017. He has also been at the forefront of promoting Indian regional languages, especially on digital mediums. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Hello everyone. It has been such a pleasure speaking to you this afternoon today. In a winter chilly morning in north of India, one has to speak after lunch. It's not an easy task to do, I can tell you. But talking about influencer, and the impact of those influence in the society is something that is not only talking about but also going deep inside as to how influence changes people's attitude and the businesses. 2021 has been a tremendously challenging year for all of us in business. When we began the year, we thought we are done with the pandemic. And we were about to, at ABP Network, we were about to embark on a journey which we had envisaged about a year ago during the course of the pandemic itself in 2020. And we saw a full challenge going ahead as to what to do when in April first week, the pandemic hit its hardest. We were about to launch our first digital venture in South called ABP NAD in the April first week. Now imagine a situation where we were all geared up to start a digital offering in Tamil language in a state where ABP had not been before. We had done full preparation, but it was such a hard hit of pandemic that we had to pause and first think about how to save ourselves and our employees from this pandemic. Influence is something that you can make in a society by doing a small bit every day. Vivekananda has rightly said that good people and the good things does not happen in a single day. Any person of no merit can actually achieve a lot in a single day by just being lucky. But being consistent, doing small things and being thoughtful, being kind, and realizing that which situation you are in, doing a bit by bit, helping other achieve their goal is what a great influence or great impact to the society is. At ABP Network, we decided that we'll pause all the activity right now and focus on saving lives of people who are working with us, their families, and everybody around them. We made a policy that no one is safe until everyone is safe. So during the course of the pandemic, can you imagine when our work is such that not much can be achieved if you're just sitting at home? Large amount of people had to come to office to make sure that the show goes on air. Reporters are on the ground, and all of us were exposing ourselves to the pandemic. every single employee during the course of next 2 months became sick. There was a time when to run the PCR we require about 8 people, there were just 2. And those who were called to work, they were scared, but they knew that this is the call of the duty. We managed to tide over time. We made sure that every single person in our company, their family members and their near and dear are vaccinated. Thanks to the News Broadcaster Association, ABP network, work with them, Yogi government in Noida, and central government and government in other places, in Maharashtra, in Bengal, we managed to vaccinate every employee of ours and their family members. During that same time, we made our preparation harder to start our Nadu, which is now ABP NAD, as you know, is the digital offering. We are streaming videos, texts, news, and it is one product that we launched this year that we are very proud of. We were the first one to report about the sad helicopter crash of our general. Remember, we are the first one. What we did is that we hired very talented young enthusiasts in journalism. Something journalist and journalism are a bit of challenging reality right now. ABP NAD is doing fabulously well thanks to the advertising community who has wholeheartedly supported us in that venture. Immediately after that, we went to Hyderabad and launched our Telugu offering called ABP Desham. ABP Desham's reporter were the first one to reach to the crash site, and we covered live from there in video. That's the strength of the ABP network. We are a bunch of dedicated, hardworking journalists who keep everything aside once we leave home, and our only mission is to report the truth. It has been from the journalism side, it has been a very, very fulfilling year covering Bengal elections, Tamil Nadu elections, and now we are in the middle of elections of Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, and Goa, and Uttarakhand. These states are seeing a new dynamics, and our journalists are determined to report the best of the best, what people think, to the channel. In the meanwhile, in the business environment, what we thought are touching everyone's life in every possible way in Indian languages. We are an Indian company, and hence we started last year in the pandemic our business ABP Studio, which is ably led by Zulfi Avaris, my business head of ABP Studio, and to all of our surprise internally, during the course of the pandemic, we managed to produce a movie in Marathi language called Kar Khansanchi Wari. It is right now streaming live on ABP on Sony Live. We also managed to produce for Discovery Travel and Living a series called Say Yes to Dress, which is also streaming right now on Discovery Plus. It is such a fulfilling journey. All through this year, it has not been possible without the help of our employees, advertisers, and people around whom we call, and I call in my life as influencer, who kept on motivating me to tide over this challenge. However, I must tell you, the world around us is changing so fast. Anyway, our habit after the COVID has changed. A lot of you have not gone to work since the time pandemic started. But let me tell you, we have been to the work every single day, even during the course of the pandemic of 2020 and 2021. Most of us have been working here. Most of us, even this Omicron virus, are still getting infected. But the challenge is how to continue the business, continue the job of reporting, continue the job of doing a good production, again and again, every single day, tiding over all the challenges. We are also seeing a unique change in the consumption behavior of the audience. So let me tell you that at ABP, we are dedicated to delivering the content in the format that you need and in the device that you need. We'll deliver you anywhere in the world. And with that challenge, we started ABP Live Investments about 3 years, 4 years ago, which is right now, we have over 110 million unique users on our network of ABP Live. We started doing the Bihar election, ABP Bihar, which is doing very well. Nard and Desham are the new digital offering. And apart from that, we have a huge video hub which curates video as per your choice, your timing. You can choose the time and you can watch the video in that timing. We also have a unique offering in that, which is what we call the uncut. The videos that never see or you never see on television. We curate a lot of those videos which are good in humor, rich in content, and subtle in the messages. It's worth enjoying. If you get time, you must watch it going on the ABP Live show called Uncut. Again, going forward from there, we have right now, we started a huge amount of investments into bringing short stories, interesting stories in the form of opinion, news on ABP Live. Currently, we have designed ABP Live in a way that you can actually enjoy consuming more and more time that you give it to. We have also streaming content globally and including on YouTube, on different platforms. ABP Sanja, which was only streaming on the digital medium, and thanks to our partner Z5, has started going on Tata Sky during the course of this election and is available now to our Punjabi audience. I can tell you, whichever languages that we are not a leader of the numbers alone. We are a leader of thought. And that thought influences mind to do something constructive for the country, for the humanity, and the people around you. And in that light, during the course of the pandemic, we partnered with a very noble organization which does not take any money from anyone, but they just distribute food, Robin Hood Army. We partnered with them to disseminate the message, involve more people in this noble journey, and they not only distributed food during the COVID with our partnership, but they also made sure that the elderly and people who are alone are taken to the vaccination center. We were so proud of doing this work with the Robin Hood Army that we can't tell you. We have further extended our work with them, and we are doing a lot of work in the social service area, including distribution of food. So influence and influencing people does not come alone by making small changes in the way we work. We created a state-of-the-art studio in Noida. We are building up a state-of-the-art studio in Calcutta. And we have already embarked on a journey of creating world-class content for the OTT. Watch out for more movies to come out from the ABP studio side. We are also looking at how we can add value to advertiser. We have created a lot of branded content with big industrial houses. And those contents are meaningful. These content that we make are not only to propagate the products and services of the companies. These are also propagating the product and services which can actually change human life in a positive way. In the last, I want to say that, look, at the end of the day, no country can grow if businesses are not centered to the society. If businesses are not in bridge between education, governments, public sectors, and consumers. All of us has to work together, and business has to remain at the center of the activity. Countries which rewards, respect, and encourage entrepreneurship, they grow faster. At a media side of the business, this is one contribution that we must make, that how we can help each other and help the country grow in business so that our lives are much better than what we inherited and leave a better world for our children. Influence and influencers don't come by just talking. In 2022, let's hope that we come over the tide of the new virus spread, get more and more people vaccinated, spread the message that keep yourself safe, and make sure that we do a fantastic work in the field of advertising, media, and marketing. I was very proud working with Piyush Pandey the last year in the pandemic when we spread the message with his help. He created those beautiful commercials called Kano Pe Zimmedari. ABP network runs crores of worth of inventory propagating that message. We never took credit of it. This is the first time I'm mentioning this to you because the job is over. These are the small things all of us need to do through IAA, through NBA, through IBF, whichever way we can. And through Triple S of I must mention my colleague in the advertising agencies and ISA, Indian Society of Advertisers. We all need to work together to make businesses more robust, more kinder, and more fulfilling for every human life in this country. That's when the real influence will come. Thank you very much. Enjoy your rest of the day.
Thank you, sir. It was pleasure listening to you, and I'm sure our audience must have garnered great insights from this keynote address. Moving forward, I would now like to call upon Rana Barua, Group CEO, Havis Group India. Rana oversees all companies of Havis Group in India, which includes advertising, media, experiential marketing, design, and health, which together comprise and work closely as a village model. He is also the president of the Advertising Club Mumbai, managing committee member IAA, Indian chapter, honorary treasurer, Advertising Agencies Association of India, honorary committee member, the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industry, chairman of AGC, the Ad Club Abbey 2022. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Neil. I hope I'm clearly audible to you and to everybody.
Yes.
Just a quick ratification. I'm vice president of the Advertising Club of Mumbai and not the president. The president also is a very close colleague of ours, Mr. Partha Sinha. It's indeed, in the end of the year 2021, and I'm actually, supposedly taking a break. I've come visiting my parents in Calcutta with my family. And when Vijaya reached out and said, will you be able to take out some time and speak to us and to some of the people who will probably join today? I said, yes, of course, why not? We've all gone through some of the most challenging times, and it's been an extremely tough journey for the last 2 years. So in these times and in this times of resilience and keeping a very strong focus, it's good to share some learnings, some bits of the journey that some of us have shared. You've just heard Avinash speak about ABP Group and all, and how he went about with his group about fixing it. So just from a perspective from my end and the group's end, I run Havas Group, as Nehal just mentioned. It's a large French multinational group with naturally a much larger ecosystem where we belong to the Vivendi ecosystem, which is a media and entertainment network where we have naturally many divisions across the world and over 25,000 people in Havas itself working across many group companies. For us, naturally, the journey in the last 2 years is, like we keep describing, that there is no word or there is no conversation that we keep telling ourselves that when the pandemic came in, it just changed everything. It changed our professional lives, it changed our personal lives, and we actually had to kind of reinvent ourselves totally when we started last year around March and April. And after that, you can actually say 2 years have passed. Funnily, you may go to the best of institutions, you may have lots of work experience, you may have many exposures, but guess what? None of us even had any leadership lesson or any learning about how to manage in a pandemic. It was something which was unprecedented, and we just didn't know how to manage it. There has been no paper. There is no, from like something that I keep discussing with a lot of my leadership team is that this is what we are going to be probably writing it down. There will be a lot of conversations. There will be a lot of white papers after this of how one came out of this pandemic, as and when we come out of it, and how we navigated this storm. I think words like resilient, determination, commitment, being tough, being focused, these are words all have new meanings for all of us, because these were words, these were professional words, these were personal life words, but these words all started building into a new form completely, where we started figuring out that this is absolutely the necessity, it's the need of the hour. As we keep saying that there's been some semblance of normalcy. Now we hear that the Omicron is getting absolutely crazy across the world. Most of the regions in Europe, US are naturally going through another wave. But as we keep seeing and how things are moving, we realize that our resolve has to be more stronger. We have to be very, very, very focused about how we are going about what we are doing. One of the philosophies that I had and I continue to have is that when an adversity strikes, the only way to survive is either we innovate or we fade out. And we went about this entire process of trying to innovate, and what do we do? So we slowly started getting into the new perspective of what the future should be. We started redefining a lot of leadership skills based on this reality, because we had to change, we had to alter a lot of things. We keep saying that the pre-pandemic stage was about technology and diversity, and the merger of technology and diversity, and the influence that Gen Y was having in and the kind of Gen Y disruption that they were doing. We realized that the post-pandemic world was now getting completely different. It was getting a bit more into the social age. The entire perspective was changing a lot. And what we started realizing is that as we move forward and as we battle the pandemic, the word meaningful and meaningful relationships was taking a new perspective, a new meaning. And this meaningful relationships with this entire human experiences are going to play a critical factor. And the driving factor for the meaningful relationships and human experiences is a simple word, which is now, at least for me and for a lot of people, a very, very, very important bedrock. It's called trust. For me, the most important leadership lesson that I have picked up in the last 2 years, whether you call it sustaining or whether you call it to survive or whether you say to fight the pandemic, was the word trust. And it's completely new meaning that it has in my life. If we were able to fight this entire battle, if we were able to take this on head on, it's because I genuinely trusted my teams to display and support in this journey. And this unprecedented resilience and commitment, I just had to trust my teams, because there was no way we could have come out of it together if I had an element of doubt or anything else. And that trust, I can see for myself, has converged into some amazing results. And that is, for me, the most critical aspect that has happened. And what I also realized, that as a leader and my entire leadership team and people, they started trusting me, and they started having the faith and belief that whatever one was doing, decisions that were being taken, or some conversations that were happening, were in genuine interest of the people. And we were very, very clear that we were trying to navigate the team, the people, the families, and the clients through this storm. And I can say that this group, and me in particular, we are extremely proud of the way we navigated this whole process and how we've gone about it. And in the bargain, we've actually managed to build many new friends, many new partners, and many people who started believing in this entire aspect, that if you actually come together in challenging times, if you start trusting each other, if you start believing in each other, if you keep supporting each other, it is possible that you may not ever win this battle, because this is going to be some time before we actually feel that things are going to become okay. So I think trust and transparency are two words I would like to tell you all again, that something that is extremely close to me and one of my bigger learnings. I think the second point, if I could say that, is that when you start trusting people, some of the leadership skills that keep changing is that you start being a bit more authentic about your approach. You start showing genuine commitment to the purpose of the vision and what you're trying to do. And that starts playing a very important role about how you go about success, about how you start facing challenges or adversaries, as we keep saying. And building this trust and sustaining it over 2 years, please understand, this is something that's been an ongoing process over close to 2 years. It is not a standalone event. You can't just say that, okay, it happened over a few weeks or a month. It's taken us a lot of work, a lot of commitment, a lot of conversations. But the reason I wanted to share this in a very open forum and say that, because we can see that after a year and a half or two, the results that we see as a group, the results that internally when we discuss with the global teams and the global, are where we report into the global teams, they genuinely see results that have come out over the last 2 years. Even we went through the most challenging times. And it's incredible how we have come together on this. When you start putting this whole aspect of human trust, a meaningful relationship that you start sharing, then you start taking on the challenges. What does one do? I think one of the key reasons where we started very clearly focusing was, what was the task at hand? What did you need to build? You need to work on your strengths. We had to focus on our clients. We needed to focus and look after the people. And most importantly, I think the idea was to stay calm. We had to stay calm. So we focused on the core job that we had in hand. We started building on our strengths. We worked very closely and partnered our clients through their toughest challenges that we are facing. And most importantly, everybody was being told to stay calm and things will probably improve on due time. I think for me personally, it was an extremely tough and challenging test. I don't know how many of you all know that we were in the process of rebuilding this entire group, which is Havas Group. And when we had started this process, in less than a year, the pandemic struck. So for us, it became even more tougher because we had just started setting the entire ecosystem of the Havas Group in place. We were hiring new people. We had acquired new agencies. We were trying to integrate a lot of new systems and process. We were getting ready for 2020. And before we even had come together, a unit of around 1,000 odd people, 10 odd companies, the pandemic struck. So for us and for me, it was one of the most challenging spaces of my career, when one had to kind of completely pull back and go back to the drawing board and start putting things in place. But it's about, like I said, it's about, it was how do you innovate? Because if you don't innovate, then naturally you fade out. So our pace of growth in the last 2 years has been quite unprecedented. It's been quite unmatched. And I genuinely owe it to my leadership team and the fabulous talent that we got on board and all the client partnerships. I think we've truly been quite stupendous in the last 2 years. And I feel quite proud about the fact that as a group, as a bunch of very strong leadership team, we managed to come together. We remodeled the entire network. But When you start fixing the product, like I said, and you start getting new programs, you're building a new culture, you start focusing on things. And my key message to my entire leadership team and my group was that just focus on three things if we can. Let's just focus on very key things, and the rest will start following. One, growth. We need to keep growing. You can't slow down on growth, because if you slow down on growth, it's going to have an impact in the environment. It's going to have an impact on the morale of the people. It's going to have an impact on the overall ecosystem. So even in the toughest times, my entire submission to my leadership team and everybody was keep growing. Let's focus. Let's cut down costs, but let's keep growing, whether it's organically or inorganically. So we kept growing, which ensured that the machines and the entire ecosystem kept working well. We said the second point I told them to focus on was keep strengthening your teams. What do I mean by that? Strengthening your teams is, it's easy to cut down, it's easy to let go. But if you can get quality people, if you can get better people, if you can get people with multitasking abilities, expertise, strengthen them, get them on board. If not today, it will come in handy after 6 months or 1 year. So we kept focusing on the quality of talent we had internally, and we started looking at quality of people outside. So we kept focusing on growth, and we started strengthening our teams. And third, for me, which was the biggest one, is that build a culture, keep building a culture that binds all this together. And by this culture, I mean an extremely progressive work culture, which ensured that people who were working in Havas Group felt that they were part of a very strong, professionally led organization, which cared about them, which understood the nuances, the challenges, and the problems that we were going through. At the same time, gave them a very strong reason to work, reason to grow, and played a very important role in their lives. So 3 points that we focused on. We continue to focus on growth, our teams, our people, and the entire work environment culture that we have built. I think these three have helped us in the overall entire ecosystem and the way we've gone about this entire exercise. And I'm extremely happy, extremely proud about it. And as we end this year, and like I started by saying, while I'm here to enjoy my holidays in my hometown, Calcutta, where my parents stay, and I'm here and I'm enjoying the lovely weather and all, I look at the 2 years gone by and I sometimes wonder when and how did it just pass? And I'm extremely, while there is a lot of cautious optimism, I'm extremely positive about 2022. We are humans. We know how to adapt. I know there are a lot of uncertainties, but I'm very confident that 2022 will be good for this industry, will be good for you and everybody who's on the call, for every one of us in this advertising media industry. We are tough people. We know how to survive this. So we are going to come out strongly on this. I keep telling everybody that the show must go on. And for us, the show will keep going on. So with this note, I want to wish you all a happy holidays and a very happy new year to all of you. May 2022 be the best for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I hope 2022 brings joy to each one of us. Thank you so much. It was wonderful having you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would now like to call upon the virtual stage Nitin Mantri, Group CEO of ABNWE and the President of the International Communication Consultancy Organization. Nitin is a member of Public Relations and Communication Association's Global Advisory Board and co-chair of PRCA Asia Pacific and PRCA Ethics Council. He was the president of Public Relations Consultants Association of India from 2015 to 2020. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Hi, my name is Nitin Mantri and I'm the Group CEO of ABNV and the President of the International Communications Consultancy Organization, ECO. And today I will talk about resilience, rebuilding, resurgence as we usher in 2022. Last year, the pandemic brought the world to a screeching halt. At the same time, it triggered a reimagining and reorienting of life as we know it. Humanity rose to the occasion and turned the odds stacked up against us into a momentous opportunity of digital transformation that otherwise would probably have taken another decade. Just think of how the world shifted gears to a seamless and symbiotic human technology work mode where empathy and ingenuity showed the way forward. Educationists reconceptualized classrooms with online learning to keep students on track with their lessons. Doctors switched to teleconsultation to help their patients through tough times. On the other hand, government agencies leveraged online platforms to track and tame the spread of the virus. These events have emboldened me to believe that the COVID-19 situation is as much a story of hope, resilience, and optimism as it has given us the opportunity to radically rethink our future, how we live, how we work, and how we treat others. This shift was reflected in the world of communications as well. We realized that we do not need to be in the same room to be connected. Physical space does not matter as long as we can connect human being to human being. Connection is made through the stories we tell each other. If we could call anything a soul, it could be this magical ability to imagine a story that does not exist, this creativity to make it meaningful and engaging. And a fraternity showed us its soul in the past 20 months and how. Like the phoenix, the industry rose from the ashes of the pandemic and reinvented and rebuilt itself with the help of technology, creativity, and purpose. We were agile, we were hyper responsive as we kept pace with the crisis and guided clients through unknown territory and helped them flourish. And today, as the year is winding down, we are stronger and better and fulfilling our purpose as communicators. We're not just amplifying things anymore. We are devising, running campaigns on our own. We're using different mediums where we can showcase our creativity. This is our industry's inflection point where divergent thinking and creative reshaping of PR strategies will become the hallmark of communications going forward. We've already seen a sharp contrast in how our work is conducted before and after the pandemic, and we will see more of that, maybe more hybrid, in 2022. Let me give you some proof points. According to the World PR Report, which is the definitive study of the global public relations industry conducted annually by ECO, the industry is expecting a decent increase in profitability in 2022, despite the challenges. Even though consultancy heads worldwide admitted that COVID-19 hit business with cancelled or delayed campaigns being the worst fallout, they expressed optimism about growth and opportunity for PR in the coming years. The biggest areas of growth, as per the report, are expected to be in corporate reputation, purpose, CSR, ESG, digital, and strategic consulting. Technology is being projected as the biggest sector of growth, followed by health and financial and professional services. No surprises there. The report further found that the PR industry is adapting to new technologies at an appropriate pace. And of these technologies, AI, data science, and SEO were seen as becoming the most relevant communicators in the next decade. Tech apps to build online communities, help operational efficiency, and improve employee engagement were identified by PR heads as being the most important for business in the coming year 2022. But as we surge into the new year, we must not forget that the pandemic is far from over. It's important that we keep a close eye on Omicron and prepare for future crises like climate change fallouts and global and socio-political tensions. These are challenges we need to fight today to get a full foothold back on stability and growth. Let me now talk about a few drivers communicators should consider and act upon right now to thrive in the coming year. Number one is talent. According to the World PR Report, one of the pain points for the PR industry continues to be talent. The ECO report found that retaining key talent was among the biggest challenges for the industry. We all are aware that the COVID-19 aftermath has put to greater emphasis than ever on the well-being of workforce. Mental health has emerged as one of the key subjects in discussions around employee welfare. And really, we'll be foolhardy to ignore this much-needed conversation. Look at what's happening to those who have done that. They are bearing the brunt of the Great Resignation. In all the discussion on talent at the recently held Eco Global Summit in London, the top reasons cited for people leaving included excessive workload, toxic culture, lack of recognition, inequitable work-life balance, and workforces today will no longer lay creating work environments that make them feel seen, heard, and recognized. According to the Bravery Mandate, Peace 2021 Brands in Motion report, respondents have rated employee well-being and personal needs, physical, mental, and financial, as the most important issues companies group leaders need to communicate with the most. These are over the customers, shareholders, and media. Companies usually have priorities over. So in 2022 and beyond, we must make it our purpose to rebuild a company culture that has employee engagement, growth, and welfare at its core. To do that, we must move with the times and find a middle ground, starting with embracing the hybrid work model with new openness. Along with flexibility, we must also take steps to equip our employees with tools and resources to protect their mental well being. Here's how: conducting regular employee surveys to detect and understand mental health problems in the organizations. Two, drive awareness and action on mental health by encouraging people to openly talk about mental health and back up that talk with action. Three, make mental health services more accessible to employees. And most importantly, number four, strive for work life balance. I know that sounds impossible in the PR industry, but push back on realistic demands and deadlines wherever possible. So, what's the bottom line? Make the industry more attractive to young talent. We must continue to champion our people, ensure that they feel good about the company they work for, their contributions, and the company's larger purpose, and that they tell their friends about it. So, what's the second driver for 2022? The second would be integration of capabilities. Agility is key in 2022 and beyond. We cannot deliver on client expectations and manage them if we don't creatively collaborate and integrate our services. The World PR Report has shown that the industry continues to have best of both worlds. Old school skills are still heavily in demand, but digital competence, insight, corporate reputation management, and counsel continue to power ahead. We already own digital and continue to work on the marketing comms, including advertising. And this dynamic merger is paying dividends already, as was pointed out by Francis Ingham at the Eco Summit recently. But we must challenge ourselves to incorporate more integrated capabilities into our campaigns. For this, we need to build a team of people from diverse professional backgrounds. PR jobs have already evolved over the past decade, and we are seeing new roles such as insights and analytics experts, data specialists, social media managers, brand managers, journalists, to name a few. As the economy and job markets evolve, new roles will definitely emerge. According to a report released by the World Economic Forum, 97 million new roles may emerge that are more adapted to the new division of labor between human, machines, and algorithms over the next 5 years. So we must be ready to bring together different PR specialists to continue to demonstrate our value. I know hiring from outside the industry is a pain point, but if we can demonstrate our value, show that possibilities are limitless when you work in public relations and focus on the well-being of our people, we will definitely attract diverse talent. So bottom line, integrated comms is a tremendous asset that will help our clients achieve an even greater level of brand and product success through strong integrated storytelling across the entire ecosystem. We just have to be passionate about helping clients solve challenges and create approaches that incorporate the right blend of capabilities. The third driver, and a very important one, is purpose. Only companies that have the courage to take bold and long-term action on deep and complex issues will flourish in 2022 and beyond. The days of armchair activism are over. A decade ago, consumers would believe whatever a brand said if it was said with confidence and aplomb. But today, where information access is at our fingertips, consumers will look for evidence. Sustainability pledges that won't come due for decades to come aren't good enough. The people in your community need to see the impact of your actions with your own eyes. Now we are all cognizant of the fact that PR agencies are clients for our customers. And just like their customers, clients today are more inclined working with PR firms that put purpose over profits, firms that really care about their people, community, and the environment they operate in. So while we will counsel our clients on purpose, we also need to walk the talk. We need to stay true to our values and what we stand for, whether we are dealing with our own clients or engaging with our own workforce. Bottom line, as strategic partners to brands, it will be a key communications priority to help our clients create an authentic purpose legacy by building on their core promise and making deep and sustained investments in the issues their stakeholders care most about. Finally, another critical driver that communicators should consider in 2022 is data. Even before the pandemic, big data was a necessary input of successful comms and marketing efforts. The dependence on data will increase as economies inch their way towards revival, and consumer sentiment remains largely unfathomable. We should therefore adopt technologies like predictive analysis that can translate these data points into actionable information. With the power of research and data and our own creativity, we can get better insights about our audience's behavior, remove biases, and create highly targeted messaging. In doing so, we create more effective business outcomes and move purpose records in the right direction. This brings the conversation to the growing importance of technology in public relations and the evolving role of professionals going forward. While technology is going to become bigger and take on a greater role in communication strategies, it is our creativity that will ensure virtual viability of brand narratives. As communication futurists, we need to tap into the mind-bending potential of technology like machine learning and augmented intelligence to develop smart, sophisticated storytelling opportunities for our clients. We have shown unmatched resilience. We have rebuilt and adapted to a drastically changing business landscape. And now, in this period of resurgence, our purpose as communicators should guide us and let us know when we are on the right track and when we are not. And while we do this, it is essential to be consistent, authentic, and empathetic. The clock isn't going to turn back, and difficult issues will keep arising. The way forward is to operate not with fear, but curiosity and openness to change. It requires prioritizing employees and local community members and engaging them in deeper and more courageous conversations. These are not times for the timid, but they are a clarion call to those willing to show up with honesty, vulnerability, and unblinking authenticity. Thank you for listening to me. Have a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. That was really insightful. Thank you so much. Moving on, I would now like to call upon Priya Patankar, Head of Communications, PhonePe. Priya heads the communications team at PhonePe, and her role involves advising the leadership team on reputation management and defining the PR strategy for the organization. She has 2 decades of experience in PR, content, CRM, and marketing communications. She has worked at both Stamps and established MNCs such as Flipkart, Tutor Vista, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, among the others. Welcome, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you. Thank you for the warm introduction. It's absolutely wonderful being here. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of the Powerful Influencers 2021 edition. It's a pleasure to be joining you all virtually and celebrating colleagues from across the industry who've pushed the envelope despite tough times. They've thought innovatively and shown courage and empathy in how they run their businesses, functions, and teams. So super stoked to be here. I think we could not have had a more apt theme for this event. 2021 has just gone past. And as we set our sights on 2022, we are here to look at what we've learned the last year that'll take us optimistically forward. In fact, I was thinking, what does resilience, rebuilding, and resurgence mean for me personally, and has meant for the business I'm a part of? Because I think the last 2 years have also been a tough and challenging personal journey for a lot of us. First, actually, let's talk about resilience. I'll begin with a small personal anecdote. I'm a big fan of gardening, and this was the first time I was actually working from home for an extended period of time, and as my family likes to put it, literally smelling the roses. Now, gardening is a very fulfilling but frustrating hobby due to the vagaries of changing seasons, not enough light, sun, there's too much rain, things are not really in your control. And there were multiple times when I had written off my plants. I saw them as no chance of making it. And I was surprised how many of them braved the elements and survived. I was actually witness to the resilience of nature firsthand. Moving on to the business I was a part of, I work at PhonePe, which is a fintech platform, and we enable digital payments for literally millions of Indians. When the pandemic stuck in 2020, it was in some ways an inflection point for digital payments. Literally overnight, we saw a surge in the number of users and businesses going digital. Interestingly, what was different this time was that these users were often first-time adopters of digital payments. In fact, some of them were just trying anything digital for the first time. This was very unlike the users we usually saw on the PhonePe platform. So from small kiranas and neighborhood stores who digitized overnight as customers were no longer paying cash, to older people. Incidentally, my parents went completely digital during the pandemic, despite my trying to convince them for years. We had users from tier 2 and tier 3 cities and beyond. Since a lot of them, these users were new to digital payments, we had to just completely relook at our playbook on how we talk to our customers. Be it the onboarding flows, where we had to make the communication a lot more visual, simple to understand, to the help center content, where we were already multilingual, but we had to just make sure that we had enough videos, we were hand-holding customers enough, there were enough visual cues, and it was a huge challenge as communicators. In fact, in the first 6 months of the pandemic, we also completely re-architected the app homepage to focus more on essentials, groceries, medicines which were getting home delivered, etc. So it was an extremely interesting and invigorating time for all of us as communicators, as we were relooking at what we were doing. While we had all this while thought of communication a certain way, at this time we had to relearn and quickly adapt. In the beginning of the year, we also decided to digitize over 25 million kiranas, covering 99% pin codes in the country. And our sales team actually undertook this mammoth task, and just last week we reached this milestone. What this really made me realize was that nature, companies, industries have an ingrained need to adapt, survive, and thrive. And I actually saw this in action during the last 2 years, and this is a learning which we'll be taking with us to 2022. When we talk about rebuilding, I think I'd also add the word reimagining here, because when we were rebuilding businesses, teams, and functions, we were also letting go of a lot of preconceived ideas on how things were done. And we're often just going back to the drawing board. We built the PhonePe communications team in large parts during the pandemic. More than half of my team was hired in the last 1.5 years. They were interviewed and onboarded remotely, and most of them just met their colleagues 1 year down their stint. And they handle fairly complex charters now. Who would have thought of it a few years back? Traditionally, communication and PR has been a very high touch function, which has thrived on face-to-face meetings. But that has completely changed now. PR and communication is also no longer limited to being a support function, sending out the occasional press note when we hit a milestone, or reacting in case of a crisis, or just servicing inbound requests. We are an integral part of marketing, and communications folks have a vantage viewpoint of understanding the external world the best. Finally, we have our ears to the ground, we talk to the media, we are aware of the social media chatter and what competition is doing and what consumers are saying, just what marketing wants. So with businesses being rebuilt, communications is a huge priority for brands, even more than ever. Companies need to talk to their customers as well as internal employees, who are also finally stakeholders, about how they are rebuilding the business. They need to be reassured, customers as well internal stakeholders, that we have their backs. And businesses also have a strong need to establish themselves as thought leaders in 2022. I'd say 2022 will be all about cementing the gains which PR and communications have made this year. I'd like to talk a little about resurgence. I think when I look at the industry I'm a part of, we could see the theme of resurgence all over. It started in early 2021, and I see that going to 2022. To give you a few common examples, tap and pay is now a fairly ubiquitous feature, which is a new innovation which came in, necessitated by payments avoiding any human contact. The neighborhood kiranas have been such exhilarating success stories. They've literally been rock stars who've rebuilt their business with an online presence, going digital overnight. Now they have product catalogs which you can access, and 10-minute delivery, which is the flavor of the season right now, and thank God for that. I recently read NPCI is talking about taking payments to feature phones, which will democratize and further deepen financial penetration. So it's going to be a great move. So 2022 is going to be all about innovating and looking ahead. Move back to my personal story. I think I also made peace with the fact that I will always have some plants which will not make it and some plants which will grow and thrive. I still feel bad about the ones that don't make it, but the ones that make it, the journey is exhilarating and gives me something to look forward to each day. So what did we really learn in the last year? What will we take into 2022? I think there's a beautiful quote which has always very strongly resonated with me, which says, success is not final, failure is not final. It's the courage to continue that count. I think that is what 2022 has taught all of us. It's the courage to continue, it's the courage to move on, it's the courage to rebuild, rethink, and reimagine. We just need to pay heed to what's happening around us, learn, reinvent, and watch the magic unfold. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for this wonderful takeaways for the audience. As we move forward, I would now like to call upon Ramya Parashar, Chief Operating Officer, MIQ. As Chief Operating Officer, MIQ, Ramya Parashar leads the operations, finance, and talent functions and brings a wealth of experience in driving transformational change and operationalizing organizational vision to adapt to an ever-changing business environment. As a part of MIQ's Global Operation Board, Ramya represents the voice of India, pushing teams to consider the bigger picture and think about multiple angles on how to deploy MIQ solutions. Welcome, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Neha, for inviting me. It's my honor today to be part of the virtual launch event of Powerful Influencers 2021. Hopefully, I'm audible. All right. So to me, I think it's fair to say that the last 18 months or so, we have seen a shift in not only in the world and in the environment around us, but also in the world of work and workplace. It's my privilege today to be sharing with you all how MIQ as an organization and its leaders stood the test of time similar to any other company and successfully managed this unprecedented crisis. During the COVID-19 pandemic, companies that led with empathy and genuinely addressed customer needs saw that relationships strengthened. Now, for MIQ, for all those who aren't aware, we are a leading marketing programmatic partner who look at how we can leverage real-time in-market signals to boost programmatic performance. Our industry-leading analytics, data science, and technology-backed solutions unlocks insights to help drive business growth for our customers. And we have a global presence across 9 countries with around 1,200 plus employees across the globe. When our co-founders, Gurman and Lee, founded MIQ in 2010, they specifically looked to address the above in the field of online advertising. And ultimately, today what we look at is where companies want to embrace programmatic, which is real-time advertising revolution, but also what they are looking at is the value that the customer wants is best in the market return on investments. And from their online ad spend, backed with superior insights, leading insights, and also transparent media spend. For us, driving performance through programmatic has become a key marketing strategy for Indian brands in recent times. Now, our data partnerships across both online and offline data providers helped us build a very robust connected data lake of around 700 million devices in India, and also tapping on into more than 500 plus connected attributes. Now, what this means is we are developing award-winning solutions. We are looking at delivering campaigns which drive powerful results to our clients and customers, but at the same time, driving transparency at scale when you talk about online advertising sector. Now, last year and this year's pandemic have had a profound impact on programmatic and digital advertising. With consumers staying at home, with sectors like travel dramatically curtailing their marketing activities, digital ad spending worldwide still grew over 12% last year. And this year, it continued to grow by 20%. Now, when we talk about clients looking for ROI more than ever, this can never be true. I mean, this has been the year which has made it emphasized even more. And in fact, businesses of all kinds, including small and medium-sized enterprises, are looking and being interested in pursuing targeted and data-driven tactics when they talk about programmatic and how they look at reaching out to their audience. Now, If you were to look at how this pandemic truly impacted us, this can be attributed to digital adoption during the pandemic that pushed companies over the technology tipping point, something that transformed the business forever. And when you look at consumers actively shifting to online channels, for example, case in point being healthcare providers are now providing care through digital services such as telemedicine with health insurers, and they're supporting this initiative online. Now, we have witnessed this stunning shift in consumer interaction, the way they interact, the type of interaction, and the timeline of how we develop relationships with customers is now significantly compressed, which means that as businesses, we are navigating through uncertain times where demonstrating empathy through our digital channels has become the new standard of engagement. And we are also in that era where digital engagement is being emphasized more over digital transactions. Now, for MIQ, we launched our India commercial team during pandemic in 2019, which means we were all working remote, 100% remote across the globe, and we still delivered outstanding results for our partners. A clear case in point being surge in companies opting and relying on digital medium marketing to advertise their products through video advertising, advanced and connected TV, social advertising, reaching out on search engine marketing, and all of those. The other example that I would also like to quote during this pandemic that stood out or that highlights is around cryptocurrency as well, right? If you look at cryptocurrency, we're still seeing a lot of limitations across marketing channels in India, but the industry in itself saw a 612% raise in number of users in the country in 2020 alone, 2021 alone. This is how consumer behavior and expectations are evolving. Now, having understanding of the in-market audience, demand patterns, and preferences, and how we boost the visibility of programmatic market has become even more important to us. Now, while programmatic advertising has only got bigger this year, we would also want to highlight that 82% of the Fortune 500 this year was buying programmatically. And North America alone grew by 249% this year when compared to 2021. Now, with surge in programmatic, the other thing that has been clear is the growth of mobile. And mobile is no longer seen as the second screen, but rather the most popular media source in India and in the house. Now, with surge in programmatic video spend to more than 31%, around, which is hovering around $36 billion this year, companies are now looking to gain results to not only through restructuring their operations internally, but also looking at how do they standardize platforms across organizations, which means we are investing in better control of the consumer data of the companies and the corporates having their own data and driving analytics to guide better decision making. Now, what this drives us is this drives us to resilience. Resilience at scale where internal platform pressures gets intensified. And resilient technologies are always underpinned by nimble business, which means we invest in future-proofing our technology landscape. Looking at new products, new solutions, it could be around demand score, bid modification, advanced analytics. It could also be around how do we embrace machine learning and AI, but at the same time, continue to invest in a lot of spend transparency to our clients with increased emphasis on multi-market opportunities. Look at digital and omni-channel engagement becomes very important, especially if you're looking to meet and exceed customer needs. Now, companies that have understood this consumer behavior have leveraged platform capabilities to address their needs in this time of uncertainty, and they have also thrived. When you fast forward and look at what 2022 has in store for programmatic company, this talks about how we are looking to deprecate third-party cookies. How do we allow the media sector to develop their own CDPs, DMPs, but also create unique audience IDs? Now, on the back of blockchain architecture, we also see introduction of new technologies, which are more data clean rooms, which allow some of these siloed data sets to communicate with each other and in a very privacy compliant manner. Now, while all of that is what we have in store, 2021 also held a lot of promise on the programmatic front. But what continued to drive uncertainty was the talent crisis. And while the pace of change is accelerating, competition for the right talent has been so fierce, and businesses have never done so much of hiring as they do today, and with great resignation amplifying the pressure on businesses, leaders are doing what is possible in their capacity to survive and at the same time to keep their growth agenda and the business moving forward. For MIQ, our internal story this year has been around growth, change, and laying the foundation for a brighter tomorrow, which means that for 2021, it was all about how do we continue to operate as one team? How do we continue to overcome with resiliency and agility? We have almost come to the end of 2021, which was immensely challenging, but there were also some of the valuable life lessons we learned as leadership team, but we continue to push ahead, focusing on our delivery and began to shift towards what does it take for a business to be sustainable and look at inclusive growth. Now, when we look at pandemic serving as a period of reflection for many of us, and with employees reassessing their options, leaders grappling to find how do they bring in collaboration, drive engagement in this 100% remote work model, what does the hybrid working model look like, how do they drive inclusivity, eliminate unconscious bias, what we were looking for is continue to support our leaders through this journey, which means that as an organization, you will have to look at how do you drive your culture forward by enabling leaders to bring in the right behaviors and practices. For MIQ, we've always operated as a very people-led organization, and we have a very rich heritage that our co-founders have kind of infused into the organization, where we believe that when we over-deliver to our people, they over-deliver to the company, which pretty much creates a virtuous cycle that fuels our sustainable growth strategy. However, with global challenges that rose due to pandemic, we continue to see that 100% remote work environment and making new hires experience our culture gets challenging. We've also seen that creating a safe place for your employees, driving collaboration, looking at productivity, all of those have been on the top of mind for leaders. And oftentimes, leaders have always been focused on business needs, priorities, but this time around, the definition of business and definition of leaders kind of changed the entire gamut of things. Now, this is possible when you have leaders who could understand the challenge, but who could also step up to the tough times that continue to stand for its people. Now, we did look at massive scale of the outbreak with sheer unpredictability that made it even more challenging. But what we continued to focus as a leadership group and try to enable everyone was through employee well-being, inclusion and diversity efforts, providing equitable opportunities across all layers within the organization, and readjusting work priorities and timelines. Now, a few things that we also looked at incorporating for developing better leadership was one, how do you create a network of teams that carried your responsibility, that carried your culture forward, and that also looking at multidisciplinary, which made engaging experts from different streams come together as team and drive forward this for our employee or the workforce. It could be work from home execution. It could be operational cadence. It could also be communicating with your employees consistently across all the channels. Second thing is when you look at emergency or business continuity plan, experience is perhaps the most valuable quality that leaders bring. And as Rana highlighted, none of us have been experienced in this, but in a novel landscape, and at a scale that we experience this crisis, what plays huge importance is the character with utmost ability, leading with empathy, providing flexibility for people, especially for ones who have childcare and elderly care responsibilities back home. Prioritizing employee mental health and well-being was paramount for us. Third is also around how do we allow leaders to make decisions even during the uncertain times, which means being proactive and keeping stakeholders informed on what can be delivered, what can be expected, and how do we prioritize the work for the teams. Second, how can we be a little more proactive on making sure that we are reaching out to our employees and driving and checking in on their well-being and helping them prioritize their work. And finally, communication matters. No matter what situation we are in, maintaining transparency, providing frequent updates is paramount. Now, for us, frequent communication to our stakeholders, but internally to employees showed that leaders are following the situation and adjusting their responses as they learn. And that agility is what drives the business forward. Apart from these, what we also did was, while we stay creative and enable leaders, you also bring in the out-of-box thinking, where you're also looking at how do you build a culture where you prioritize your employees. And what we did was we also looked at how do you drive some resilient, quick decisions that enables your caring for your employees. We had to launch MIQ Cares, which was an employee-friendly benefit program in just a span of 2 weeks. And similar to any other organization, we looked at how do we bring in more benefits around COVID care policies. We also looked at how do we enable second Friday off for employees each month, bringing in no meeting Friday, looking at 4-day work option, providing opportunity for people like short-term job rotations where they could get diversified learning through different teams, look at accelerated growth plans, work from home enablement policy of setting their work from home space. All of these go a long way in building the trust with your employees, with your own leadership team, but also providing a safe space for people to be a little proactive and reaching out to you at the time of help that they need. And finally, the financial support, where our employees were looking for company to support them during this crisis, is where we stood out. Now, during the pandemic, the other thing that tops our mind is also around mentoring, which is needed more than ever. And for us, simply completing the daily objectives on time also took a Herculean effort. And in that space, what we did was we initiated newer informal sessions, coffee chat sessions with executive, understanding what support is needed for our employees. How do we continue to network with people? How do you bring in open door policies where employees, but at the same time, even HR teams who are tasked with recruiting and retaining best teams, they are also supported and they are also heard. And finally, creating that experiential and safe space for your employees, and where leaders drive your culture forward, becomes paramount. Now, with that, as we all work towards driving our people-centric agenda and also operating as a business with heart, I would also like to thank every leader at MIQ who's made this possible for us. And all of us are currently learning to live with pandemic and crafting a new normal. The bright side of the pandemic is a huge opportunity for all of us to reset our business and personal lives. Now, as we prepare to welcome holidays and New Year with all its glory, I would also want to acknowledge that it has been a year that has made us grateful for what we have and also appreciate the smaller things in life. So wishing you all a very happy New Year and a lots of optimism. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. I would now like to call upon this stage Shalini Rao, Chief Marketing Officer, Bengaluru International Airport Limited. An expert in strategic marketing and brand building, customer experience and digital transformation, Shalini is responsible for branding, communication and marketing at BIAL. Prior to joining here, Shalini was a brand consultant for Tata Sons. She headed global marketing for Taj Group and marketing for Tetra Pak India and Mass India. She has been a part of leadership teams since 2004. Welcome, ma'am. Over to you.
Thanks, Neha. Thank you very much. Can you hear me clearly? Awesome. Hi, everyone. And you know that one sentence which I just started with is, can you hear me clearly? Can you see my deck? Am I audible? I think almost signifies the reality of what the last almost 2 years has been for all of us. And I'm sure you've heard everybody before me talk about a whole bunch of things. And I think some of the things we just heard about, the people-centric approach to what we did is also pretty much, I think each one of us has followed some of these areas. So the pleasure of being the last to talk to you is I don't want to sound repetitive. So let's see if I can share some slightly different insights and thoughts. So to start off with, I think the one part which literally came down to resilience, survival. How did we actually make it through? What did we do? Um, I have the joy of being part of at least one of the industries that was fairly badly hit, like pretty much a lot of them. But for us, for the first time in 13 years, we saw the airport pretty much come to a halt. We didn't have commercial flights. We didn't have anything. So a place that relied on the vibe of people to actually, get a lot of joy, get a lot of thinking, just came to a halt. And for a role like mine, which looked at social media, engagement, digital engagement, doing things on the ground with people, suddenly you didn't have people. And if I were to look back, I think as leaders and what I think we did fabulously well as a group was just come together. And I think everybody's referred to it in different ways, but I think the frequency of communication between all of us and the frequency of communication out to everybody, as well our stakeholders, because we operate within the airport community. So just over communicate. I think if there's one word that I would take away from all of this was literally, and something others have spoken about as well, but just over communicate. Keep talking, keep listening, but also keep letting everybody know what's going on, because you're at different locations, you're behind a camera sometimes you're just on the phone. So I think over communication, talking to each other constantly, taking decisions together. I think the beauty and the resilience of this time was everybody coming together to take really quick decisions, keeping the much larger perspective in mind, and more agile decision making. Because what do you do when things come to a halt? What do you do? How do you manage? We had a unique situation of, we were frontline staff, so there's a large proportion of our staff that has to work no matter what. Yet there are some who wanted to stay home, and they could do their jobs from home. So managing, while we all talk about hybrid today, but managing a hybrid workforce itself, where some people had to be on the ground, some were home. How do you bring it all together, and what do you do? And those were places where we really put our heads together to see how we could manage and how we could support each other. So we actually built up backup teams as well that could split forces in the interest of business continuity, that could actually go and help out as well wherever they could. So that was one part of things that I think we managed to do quite well. The other one that I think I'll talk a little bit as a marketer here and say, going back to the basics. I think after like 28, 29 years of being in the field, you have a strategy, you've got a defined set of things that you're going to do for the year, and suddenly everything just, fell apart, right? So going back to the basics, I call it marketing 101 in that sense, which is, what does the consumer want at this point in time? And that consumer is internal, external, stakeholder, the person that you're actually talking to from a business perspective. And I think understanding the fear that existed all around and tackling it head on, and actually providing a certain amount of reassurance. So there's a whole bunch of actions that we took, both internally as well as externally, to actually reassure people. So we created, I remember, a whole campaign around we are here for you, just to reassure everybody on the steps that we were taking within the airport so that you were comfortable to come and fly. We did a certain set of research. People told us that they were afraid. They were afraid to be in close confines. They were worried who they were going to come into contact with. So we actually started sharing all the steps that we were taking to help. And at that time, and now it almost seems like, it's just one of the easiest things to do. But in a span of about, I think, 4.5 weeks, we turned around the entire idea of contactless travel. Pulled in technology, pulled in a whole bunch of what we did, and we were one of the first airports in the world to actually do end-to-end contactless, because that's what people said. I don't want to touch a screen. I don't want to touch something that somebody else touched. So having that conversation, trying to, build your strengths around what could help reassure and slowly urge people back and convince them that flying was the safest way to do things. And that went on even with our internal employees, right? Lots of fear, lots of questions. How do I deal with this? So I think, like everybody else has shared, we had an internal, we called it Dial 911. It was a 24/7 helpline, which was manned by all our own employees. Volunteered, ran it. We had people on rosters, just talking through some people. We helped set up, counseling services that people could talk to, because as all of you know, there's been a whole bunch of mental stress through all of this. So I think I'm probably repeating what everybody else said as well, but understanding what is the new way of doing this, and I think everybody's seen a huge jump in people related policies, in terms of empathy, in terms of conversations. I think as leaders, there was nothing that we decided, there was nothing that we wouldn't do. So if somebody wanted to talk for about an hour, if somebody just wanted to cry or talk about something else that happened, and I think each one of us has had to pull in that kind of resilience and strength within ourselves to be able to provide that kind of coaching, and also help leaders at various points in time fill themselves up as well. So wellness sessions, understanding simple techniques of a breathing or a yoga to keep yourself full up as well. And in doing so, also reassuring the employee base that the organization was behind you. And I think we were at least in this industry, we made the choice of ensuring that everybody held on to their jobs. And I think that was a big decision we took, which meant we looked elsewhere. We looked elsewhere to get fit, to cut costs, tighten the belt a little bit. But those are the things that helped mentally secure people hugely. And I can carry on with the multiple level of things that we did in terms of contactless, in terms of reassurance, in terms of constant communication. I think one thing all of you would have experienced is regulations changed. I'm flying in from here, this state has this regulation, I'm flying in from this country, what do you do? We actually picked up that opportunity to that extent. And I think somebody mentioned that, the crisis gave in a whole bunch of opportunities as well. We created something called Voice of PLR, where we actually, on an active basis, put out, if there's a change in regulations, we'll put out an FAQ. We'll provide clarity. We put it up on all available sources, both social, our website, etc. So we actually became the source of authentic communication and information. So that became a big thing that holds us in good stead even today. And it's crazy because the regulations change on a Friday evening or a Saturday normally. But 24/7 working, at least for a large part of my corporate communication and crisis team, became a very, very big thing. But I think the joy was in how we pulled it all together, which means we had daily meetings. We ensured we laughed through some of it as well. And I think if I were to share one thing that I would want anybody listening to take away, is to remember to laugh through all of this, because beyond a point, none of it was certain in terms of where it was going or what was going to happen. And the ability to help each other laugh through even some very difficult situations, I think, is something that helped us stay resilient, stay focused, and rebuild. And for us, rebuilding was really reassurance. For us, rebuilding was changing how we did things through contactless. And resurgence for us has come in bits and pieces. So it came early last year and things went down last year. And I think as a corporate, our purpose became very, very strong, and our purpose became the one thing that drove a lot of what we did. And I think all of us as leaders stuck to that. So when there was the migrant crisis, we knew the airport community could pull together meals. So we all volunteered, pulled meals together, and actually ensured that the community around us got meals to eat. When the crisis in Bangalore, as far as oxygen concentrators and just even hospital beds became an issue, we created a small COVID care center within the airport community to work on it. I think we found our purpose. I won't say found our purpose. I think we reiterated our purpose, and we acted as, let's say, caring corporate citizens as well, because it wasn't about just our people. It was also about the community around us. And with that, I'm gonna leave you or ask you to think about 3 or 4 learnings that I think I've taken away as a leader, and that we constantly try and talk to each other about, talk to other leaders, talk to ourselves as a group, and even keep, pushing each other on. And I will use my favorite terminology of, I don't know how many of you have come across this. The Japanese have a system of pottery. It's called the kintsukuroi, and it actually means golden repair. It's basically broken shards of pottery. When they break, the whole art is one of fixing them together with lacquer and either gold, silver, or platinum dust. And the concept being that the end product is far more beautiful as compared to where you started. And the thought process philosophically is just very clear, I'm sure, to all of you, which is things will break, but that doesn't mean they can't be put back together again. And you can use the beauty of the lacquer and the gold dust to put them back together and create a piece of pottery that's priceless and pretty valuable by itself. But the learning from that and taking that thought, and I know that thought is something that I held on to very, very clearly. And we've spoken about it internally while making ourselves accessible, while making ourselves, get out there, communicate, be empathetic. I think the one learning through this whole pottery piece that I just spoke to you about is the agility, the importance of being agile, the importance of realizing that, okay, it broke. Where we were going has changed. So what can we pick up? And that's what I'd ask everybody, to think about a little bit, which is, what are your gold dust moments? What are your silver dust? What are your platinum dust moments? And what's that lacquer that can put it back together to look very different? We did it, whether it was through contactless, whether it was through sanitation, whether it was through learning how to work with masks, whether it was doing a massive amount of online learning sessions so that people could stay updated and get comfortable with the medium itself, but also continue to learn so that they could grow and move on. And in that, the entire power of the pause, I think for me, I would say all of us as leaders have had the opportunity, not during the resilience or not during the early phase as somebody who handles crisis comm, I don't think there was any time to pause. But later, there has been pause to think about, what's my purpose? What's my organization's purpose? Where are all of us going? And how do we need to move forward from here? And as leaders, I think that's an important question we anyway need to ask ourselves on an ongoing basis. But I think in the last 6 months, not just us, I've heard my teams, my direct teams, other teams ask themselves exactly the same question in terms of where are they going, where would they like to go, and what are the changes and course corrections they want to make along the way. And the third, I referred to it when I talked about laughing, was about finding your moments of joy. And I know that as all leaders and a group that came together dealing with some very, very traumatic situations as well at times, it is only those moments of what is our purpose and what will give us joy, what will what can we do to bring joy and smiles to everybody's faces as well through all of this. So finding the joy for yourself and helping others find the joy as well, I'd say would be another thing that all of us have taken away as leaders. And the last one that I'll probably like to just leave it with in the entire concept of the Kinsukurai, which is what are you going to do to fill yourself up? How are you going to stay resilient as a leader by finding your moments of acceptance, your moments of peace, your moments of calm, and most importantly, not taking ourselves so seriously. And I think I was in a forum a couple of weeks ago where we talked about, yes, what's the biggest thing we all take away? Tremendous gratitude and just the fact that we're all alive. But also the fact that I think we're a little less serious about ourselves. We're a little easier. We're not worried about, have I had my head down? How am I looking? Because I think those things have ceased to matter as much. But having said all of that, I think we've also learned how to build our executive presence online. So the Kinsukurai, which is broken pottery and putting it back together, we did it in different ways for the organization, like I mentioned, but I think we all did it in different ways for ourselves as well. And I think going forward, we're going to continue to do it because uncertainty continues. And I think the human mind reacts to uncertainty with anxiety. So, and the opposite of that is how do you find your safe space and certainty for yourself? And to me, it came from finding my purpose, my organization's purpose, and my function's purpose. And putting all of those things together, I think, is what helped us get to the point where everybody still loves us. We're seeing resurgence in traffic. And I say this to all of you, whether you're in Bangalore or not, because I think all of us airports feel the same. Please travel, enjoy, your holiday season, and I wish all of you the best for it. But also, I will say, stay safe. Thank you, Nehal. Over back to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. Before I invite my next speaker, I would request my team to play the sponsored AV, please.
न पाबंदी हो न कोई हद हो तो बस खुद बनाई सरहद हो। ये मुहिम है परतों में छिपे हर सच की तलाश की, सियासत पर रखी पैनी नजर और आंख की, खबरों की दुनिया में एक जिम्मेदार आवाज की, जुर्म और जुल्म के खिलाफ हर बेबस के लिए इंसाफ की। जब कोई हद नहीं इंसानियत के लिए जज्बात की, जब कोई हद नहीं खुशियों और ख्वाब की, तब कोई हद क्यों हो नए नजरिए और बदलाव की। तोड़ के हदों के ताले नए सपनों को पाले, बांधे सबको एक धागे, आपको रखे आगे। एबीपी न्यूज।
I would like to once again thank our sponsor, ABP News, for being a part of Powerful Influencers. I would now like to call upon our last speaker for the day, Kunal Jeswani, CEO, Ogilvy India. Kunal has spent over 2 decades in the communication business, working with a range of clients, including Unilever, Mondelez, Vodafone, Tata Group, and ITC Group. He has also worked on the launch of Indian Premier League for the BCCI. Kunal has worked across the company's advertising and digital business. His previous role was Chief Digital Officer at Ogilvy India, and he continues to focus on growing Ogilvy's digital footprint in India. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. I was just asked to cover on this chat what we've experienced through the pandemic and what I've learned from it. I'll just take you quickly through the last 2 years, and what it's meant for us at Ogilvy and what it's meant for me personally. Right? I think that the first thing that all of us recognize from a leadership perspective is that we weren't ready. Right? We weren't ready ourselves. We hadn't trained our people to be ready for anything at this scale. Right, and the first simple thing was shipping everybody's machines home, expecting people to work from home, ensuring everybody has access to working machines, to internet connections, just the basic stuff, getting that in place and making sure work didn't fall, right? And that we weren't ready for, but we were lucky. We were lucky that we thought. Just a week before the lockdown hit, of testing it out, right? Just in case we needed to. And we said, we're not ready. We don't know how it's going to work, but let's just test it for 3 days. Let's shut the office, ship all the machines home. But we had a lot of desktops at that time as well. And let's just see if it works. And we were supposed to do it as a 3-day trial. And we did it for 3 days. And then we said, okay, let's just try it for 3 more days. And we did it for 2 more, and then the lockdown was announced. So we were lucky in that sense that just a little bit of saying let's just let's just do a trial run to make sure when it happens we have some degree of readiness. That gave us a little breathing space and a little time. From there on, the learning for me as a leader was really just trust your people, because there were a lot of questions at that time, right? Will people work from home, or will they just slack off, right? We're not monitoring anything. People come to work. You have bosses. They check on them and see what they're doing through the day. We have an attendance register. Now there's nothing, right? Suddenly you had nothing, no control at all. And all you could do was trust everyone to do what they had to and deliver, and they did. So my big leadership learning, through the entire pandemic is to just trust people more, because when you do, more often than not, they come through and deliver. Right? And there'll always be exceptions, right? There will always be exceptions of people who don't, but that's fine. As long as you learn that the bulk of humanity, the bulk of all the people you will ever work with, you can trust completely to do what they need to, without monitoring, right? Without timesheets and attendance records and anything else, right? They just do the work that they need to. The second thing I learned through this space was how much people rally together to help each other, and how little the organization can do versus how much human beings can do for each other. And that was a huge learning exercise for me as well. And I think that the culture that you build in the organization becomes really important at times like this. That's what helps you sail through. And so, after the initial 3 to 4 months, my focus on culture was so heavy for the rest of the last 18 months almost. I'd say 50% of my time on any given day goes in culture. And what that means is conversations, a lot of conversations with people at scale, with the office as a whole, with individuals. Helping people understand what the Ogilvy culture is, how we bring that to life as human beings. Because in this whole work from home environment, the one thing that's going to suffer the most for all of us, right? For most of our companies, for the people who work within these companies, is culture. Because you don't have an experience of it, right? When you're working from home, that's the one thing that suffers the most. You don't come to office, you don't meet other people, you don't see the space, you don't see the people. But the one expression of culture that is consistent is the people. So even if you stay connected, through calls like these, right? Whether it's 20 people, 30 people, 100 people, 500 people sometimes, right? The more connected you stay, the more you're able to answer questions openly, the more transparent you're able to be, the more you continue to build culture. But those markers need to be set on what is culture, what does it mean, who are these human beings, right? To get more and more exposure to them across the board. So those I would say were the top 3 or 4 things I learned. And that's it. That's my little bit for today's talk. I hope it was helpful, and I hope if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them. But otherwise, that's my learnings from the last 2 years.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Nehal, so that's all I have. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure our audience must have learned a lot from this wonderful session. Thank you. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the wait is finally over. After these power-packed keynote addresses, AdGully is delighted to proud unveil the 4th edition of Powerful Influencers 2021. I would request my team to showcase the Powerful Influencers ebook, please. Thank you so much. You can also check out the ebook on our AdGalley's website, www.adgalley.com/powerfulinfluencers2021. The link for the same is also available on the chat box. You can check it out. Thank you everyone for joining us at this event. And we at AdGalley wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and prosperous year ahead. Stay safe, stay connected. Thank you so much.